Welcome back, everyone, to the We're Talking to You conversation. And if you've been following along, you know that means one thing: the cream mix has officially arrived. For those who don't know me, I am Lucretia, and today I am joining Jay Dominique and Prometheus for what I hope to be the beginning of many thought provoking conversations. Now, before I get into today's topic, I want to give these gentlemen a chance to introduce themselves, tell the audience who they are, what they are about, and what perspectives they bring to the table. Jay, let's start with you.
Greetings, beautiful people. I'm Jay Dominique, aka J Dot, the one that brings food for thought to both the have and the have-nots at your service.
And I am your resident old head, the man who stole fire from the gods and brought it to you, the people, Prometheus. So welcome back to part two. If you've been rocking with us thus far, you know we started off with the transition from 21-year-old into the version today, what we consider adulthood. And what we're going to now talk about is how we are today in contrast to how we saw the world at 21, to show you the changes and the maturation in our thought processes and the way we moved in this world, so that hopefully you can see within yourselves that it's not necessarily how you start, but it's how you end, and it's about the journey of how you got there.
Ain't that the damn truth?
I'm going to ask this to both of you all, starting with you, though. Do you consider yourself grown? Whatever that
Now?
means to you. Yeah. Right. In the age and
Oh,
the
yeah.
space and time you occupy right now, you consider yourself grown. And what makes you then grown compared to what you thought being grown was 20 plus, or no, because you're only 21 when you were 21.
No, I wasn't saying I'm still 21. I'm just saying once you turn 21, you can always have the full access to all the things that you could have full access to at 21. But
So when you turned
um,
21 the first time, what made you
yeah,
grow?
never thought I was grown. I never felt grown when I was 21. I never
Okay.
did. I used to think often, when am I going to actually feel like an adult? Because I don't think I felt like an adult when I was in my 20s. It wasn't until later. I don't even think I felt like an adult after I had my first daughter.
Or when did you, like, what makes you grown compared to what you thought being grown was 20 plus?
Oh,
Birthdays.
I got shit to lose now. I didn't have nothing to
Okay.
lose then.
See, I
It was
agree.
my little apartment, I didn't have children or anything like that. I don't I My children I didn't come to. I was like close to like very close to 30. So yeah, I didn't have anything to lose. And you could have the thought process of someone upset you, you just fought it out, or you just got into a fight. If someone said something you didn't like, you
Or
know what I
hit your
mean? Then
car and then run
you was
away.
gonna
Yeah.
you was gonna handle it like you would handle it from the streets, and then you get a little older and then realize that the strength is really in walking away. And before you're really spending so much time trying to prove yourself in your 20s. When you get grown, you don't have the need to prove yourself because you when you're 20, you care about what everyone thinks. You're not now in your 40s, you're like, I really don't give a shit what you think about me. Like I really don't care. And then eventually once I start saying stuff like, are you signing my check? Then it's really, you don't sign my check. So I don't care what you got to say, how you think, how you feel, nothing. But so once I start having, and you know what really shifted, I ended up having some sort of confrontation at 31. And I went to tell my mom about the confrontation I had at 31. And her reaction to it was not the same as it would used to be when I was younger. She was like, girl, are you crazy? Like, you could go to jail. What about your daughter? What about this? What about that? And she starts saying all the things that I could lose and what could possibly happen to me. And that's when I think I had like that real moment of truth where I was just like, you know what? I can't act like I used to act. Can't act up no more. Because if I go to jail, what they gonna do with my daughter?
That's facts. So I put a pin on that. We're going to talk about that when we close out the whole part about proving yourself in the maturity. I think that's dope that you highlighted that, because that's one of the things that I hope people, after they hear all the bullshit we did about us in our 21s, they take away from it. So Jay, I'm going to put the same question to you. Do you consider yourself grown? And if so, what makes you grown compared to what you thought being grown was 20 plus years ago?
Well, I know I'm grown as hell now,
Okay.
for sure.
Stay with authority.
Um, yeah,
Hey,
without a shadow of a doubt,
that's
Put your
right.
without a
chest in there.
shadow out of a doubt.
Put your
Don't need
chest
no
in it.
chest. It's just I'm grown.
It's growing.
Right.
But
Put your heart in it.
even when I was 21 years old, I had a framework where I saw adulthood and being grown as being two totally different things. I suspect that came from my introduction when I was in Iceland. I was the young little bro in the equation, and I was around guys that were 28, 30 that had families. And so their task was with bringing me through the military and me learning the ropes. And so I knew my positioning with them, you know, and so I sat at their feet, for lack of a better expression, and I gave them deference because they had responsibilities. They had been through some things, and they were able to show me that grown is more of an exercise of wisdom than it is how many years you've been on planet Earth. So when I was 21, if I was on the basketball court and somebody said something, yeah, I might have popped off and be like, I'm a grown ass man, this, and that. But like in my heart of hearts, I didn't see myself at 21 as a grown man. In my mind, because my introduction to these guys that had families, responsibilities, taking care of more than just themselves, they were around 28. So in my mind, I felt like the threshold for me is I couldn't wait till I was about 28. When I was sitting kind of think about and factor out how I wanted my life to look at a certain point, one of the years would be 28. I'd be like, when you're 28, you don't lived life past 18 for 10 years. So you should have accumulated some experiences, and then you should have learned some lessons and be able to impart some wisdom now looking back. But most importantly, like you said, Lou, there's a exercise of maturity that should be there, that you have people connected to you, that if you don't make the appropriate and right decisions, you impact other people in a way that is going to let them down. I don't think that that comes with just becoming an adult. You can be an adult and not have any responsibilities and live your life reckless, you know, and no one would probably charge you with that, especially if they find out you have no kids, you don't have any responsibilities, you've never been made to feel like you have to think about somebody else. Not to say that would excuse your behavior, but people would be like, oh, that's a no-brainer. Somehow when you start to look at experiences and you start to look at accumulation of things that you could lose, that you're working hard for, I think it forces and shifts a person's mentality to where like, okay, I gotta move a certain way because I gotta make sure that I keep this thing going because other people are dependent on me. But hopefully you have people that look up to you. I think that's a part of becoming grown as well, is having someone that is looking up to you for guidance or looking at you as a model of some sort as to how to track their progress. I think just being an adult, people that do adult things don't necessarily think about consequence or don't think about the cause and effect of their actions. When you're grown, you're aware of that.
Yeah.
You come from a posture where you're like, I got to make sure that I represent myself in a certain light, but then I also got to represent whoever else is connected to me in a certain way as well. And so that just pretty much puts you in a different lane. I think grown is a lane, and not every adult gets into the lane of being grown. You could go your whole life in the adult lane and never really, really reach your fullest potential. But you could be a person that is just thrust into a space where you got to become grown. You got to grow the fuck up. And you grow up, and from that point forward, your whole life can never be the same way it used to be when you were just an adult. So that's how I look at it. And that's how I measure the fact that I feel myself as a whole grown ass man, because I understand how many people I impact. I understand my positioning in the bigger scheme of other people's lives. And I understand the responsibility in that. And I welcome that responsibility. And I carry that responsibility willingly because it's about building legacy.
Good one. Man, I don't know how to follow that one. I could say that I definitely didn't consider myself grown at 21 because I didn't have the concept of what I was an adult, obviously, but as far as what we would say grown, because I was very reckless. I was very, in terms of temperament, I could go from 0 to 60, and he can attest to that in like less than 60 seconds at perceived slights of ignorance and of disrespect. And it could have been real actual disrespect, or it could have just been my own perceptions of what some could be. I think for me, I don't know if the age of transition happened, what that looked like, but obviously somewhere in the 40s, like what you said, Lou, when maturity kicks in, where you realize you have things to lose. I remember having a conversation with somebody, and we highlighted that there's a time and a place, obviously, to like make a stand if you have, but you got to be very careful when you make these stands because, for example, at 50 years old, a 10-year sentence in prison is a life sentence, right? At 55, I shouldn't be lining up for rec. I should be taking my kids to Chuck or my grandkids to Chuck E. Cheese and not lining up for rec and chow. And I think that's the difference between 21 and 48 is that there's a recognizing of consequence of action, choice. So, like I said, as we move into this adult theme of us where we are at, I want to ask, okay, Lou, what educational career goals have you achieved for yourself? And if you don't mind sharing, what was the catalyst for you to achieve these goals? So, like, what have you achieved for yourself now that you identify what makes you grown now, or how you consider
Mhm.
yourself grown? What are some of the things you've achieved for yourself in that moment? And it doesn't have to be education; it could be career, or it could be
Mhm.
something related to something else. But that now solidifies. This is how I know I'm fucking grown.
Yeah, I was actually I was thinking about that earlier. I'm like, what changed for me that just had me switch from I know I'm grown now. You know what it was? It was a simple I can do exactly what I want to do whenever I want to do it. Whether that meant buy the thing, go travel at the place, go have the dinner, go buy the expensive purse, go buy the expensive shoe, where I think it was just that space, mental space where it was like, I have finally hit a space in my life where whatever it is that I want to do, I can just go do that. And I think it was as simple as that for me. Because once I finished school, I didn't feel grown. I think I got into management still fairly young, and I don't even think I felt grown. I almost felt like an imposter. Like, what am I doing here leading these people? And I still don't feel like an adult myself. I still have moments where I'm like, my kids are like, you're kind of weird. I don't know. What kind of grown woman acts like this?
You're showing the parallel between how you thought way back when and now. What gives you the idea? What gives you the reason to call yourself grown?
Yeah, I don't even see when you're young, you think grown is a number, like this
Ooh,
number that you hit, that you turn 21 and now you're grown. Like now, or you hit 18 and you're an adult, which we all know that no one hits 18 and really truly feels like an adult. It almost feels like you force someone into something they're not ready for. The shift from 18 to 25, now that's a different shift mentality. So I think when I was younger, I felt grown as an age. So I was like, once I hit 21, then I'm gonna be this adult and I can do whatever I want. But did you ever notice that once you turn 21 and you told someone that you were 21 and you thought you hit this milestone, someone would be like, just made it. You just made it, like, or you'll hit, like, or you'll hit 25. Because now once you get 21, now you're like, okay, now I want to be able to rent a car. And I can rent a car at 25. So you go, you turn 25, you want to rent this car. And then you show someone your ID and they're like, oh, just made it. You know what I'm saying? Or then you meet someone and they're like, how old are you? You're like, I'm 26. And they're like, well, you're still a baby. You're like, dang, at what age are people going to stop telling me that I either just made it or that I'm not still a baby or I still have a whole lot of growing to do? Like, I didn't know. I'm like, what age, at what point in time am I going to get the respect from the other adults in the room? And I think that was like one of the things that I was like, so I know this adulthood cannot be an age because I'm not even getting the respect from the other adults in the room. And then I think it was like certain milestones, like, or for other people, I think society, marriage or motherhood or things like that, were when people started to respect me in a different kind of a way. When you have to hold certain titles. I got to hold the title of wife, I got to hold the title of mother, and now people are respecting me differently. But that's just what I thought. I thought it was a number. When I got now that I'm older, it's really nothing. It has nothing to do with the number. It has everything to do with just a state of mind
I
and
think you just
it's a
said something.
feeling.
I think you said something. No, I think you become grown when other grown-ups respect you as a grown-up. Like now, when you introduce yourself to somebody and they see your age, obviously, if you talk to a 70-year-old, they'll tell you you're not grown yet. But generally speaking, at our age now, deference is just shown to us until we prove otherwise that you're not
Yeah.
mature enough to handle that.
No, people will call you a grown woman. When this girl at my job started calling me this lady at work, I was like, damn. When
Hey,
she's
you made
telling
it.
the
Hey, you
story,
made it. That's how you know you
hey, I
made it.
was going to lunch with this lady at work. I'm like, dang, I'm 31. When did I become the lady at work? So
Sorry about that, my
painful.
So, Jay, I'm gonna put to you as far as love and relationship. How does present you differ from 21-year-old you and your expectations from a relationship?
To put it simply, the difference is growth. When I was 21 years old, I didn't feel as if I had a responsibility to be a certain thing for anyone. I was in this thought process like I'm who I am and I as advertised, so it's up to you to decide if I'm your cup of tea. And if so, then we rocking. And if not, oh well, on to the next one. It wasn't until I was able to make enough mistakes and as it relates to love and relationships and lose out on some good women. They always say a man will learn his biggest lesson once he loses somebody, right? And I'm just speaking from a standpoint looking back. I don't know where any of those individuals are in their current life to know, but but what I tell myself to kind of make sure that I always keep it in perspective is that I was very, very immature and self-centered and didn't realize that what comes with being a man in a relationship is a lot of different positions that you have to be willing to step in and grow into. I didn't grow in the relationships that I was in as a young man. I just felt like, I'll accept you for who you are, you accept me for who I am. As I see it now, the biggest difference is understanding that for any two people, you should be coming together. And of course, yeah, you keep to the core of who you are. You don't want to lose the self. You don't want to lose the individual, but there should be a spelling out of where are we going to go and how are we going to help each other get there, which means that both people have to be willing to work at and work on simultaneously extending and growing themselves out. I didn't have a concept of terms like versions of yourself, or I didn't have my three P's, which is protector, prophet, and provider. Didn't have any real spiritual grounding at that point in time. So I was just navigating through a world, pretty much taking it how it came. And I really only stayed with young ladies that were willing to put up with my bullshit at that particular point in time. If there was anyone that would look like they were trying to ask me to change, even for the better, I took that as a personal swipe at who I was at the core of me. And I'm like, I'm not changing for a woman, et cetera, et cetera. But where I've arrived at now is, yeah, you shouldn't necessarily chip away and destroy parts of who you authentically are for another person. But if you're not willing to add to yourself at the through inspiration of a woman, then you're never really going to be in a relationship into what you really grow into and can become what she needs for you. And I'm just speaking from a male perspective because I have only been a male on planet Earth and I have no aspirations to be anything other than that. So I can look back at 21 and be like, I was not at all equipped to be anything except for a good time. Like I'll give you a great time. And I might have been eye candy on somebody's arm, depending on who you talk to, but that was pretty much all I had to offer. They have a little expression in the hood where I come from is like dick and bubble gum. You know what I'm saying? Something to just have fun with. That's it, right? People
Party
have fun
foul.
with chewing bubble gum. Hey, girls have fun popping bubbles, blowing bubble gum, and having a guy. That's all I had to offer back then. But so I've came full circle with that.
Well, wow, thank you for that. I think you're highlighting really what which I'm trying to get from this is the recognition of where you've come full circle. It can show like how growth in life has matured your decision making. Again, in that bit of time, you're going to close this one part, not close, but I'm offer, let's say,
Wait, what was the question? I want to answer the question too.
you want to answer that one? Okay, let's answer that one. And for love and relationship, how does present you differ from 21-year-old you and your expectations of a relationship? And what are some of the significant changes that have shaped how you saw a relationship at 21 versus how you see it today?
Um, I was the shit then, and I'm the shit now, so I really didn't have to change nothing really. I'm just kidding. Just
Walk in it, walk in it, walk in
I
it.
was
You
I
know,
would I didn't know how to be nobody's girlfriend and nobody's wife at 21, even though that's what they were telling me I should have been doing. That I didn't even know how to submit like at that time.
drizzle, drizzle.
I was way too strong-minded, strong opinioned, and just had zero, I mean, I'm talking zero self-awareness, like such little self-awareness that, and then I didn't even understand what loyalty really truly meant back then. You know, I just didn't grow up. I didn't have very a lot of good relationships to model things after. I just did not see that kind of stuff. So back
So
then,
those,
I was really like, I honestly really just did not take men seriously. I just thought that they were just, I was like, "There, y'all are
bubble,
just
like what he said, bubble gum and
toys. You're just toys at this point in time. I really just don't even care." Like and I just, even when I was with someone, I was like, "I'm too young to see forever with you." Like I just could, and I got married young actually, 25. I think I got married when I was 25. And I should have never been doing that. Like, what the heck was I thinking? I didn't know how to be a wife. I didn't know how to do any of that. Now that I'm grown, you know what I'm saying? Now that I'm a grown woman and I appreciate and can respect my relationships and the men that I'm with, then be I understand the difference between compromise. And I just don't even think I understood what compromise really meant then. But now I understand what compromise means and how it's it's actually necessary in
So how
all
did
your
you learn that?
relationships.
So how did you learn that?
By just paying attention to like, really trying to understand that relationships end because 2 people, not just because of 1 person. It was just so easy to blame the other person that, I don't know, I think it was sometimes, I think what happens is you get out of a relationship, someone tells you all the things about you that they're probably not very fond of. You don't get it, you don't hear it, you don't understand it, you don't wanna receive it, you're almost too stubborn to understand it, and then you meet someone who gives you everything that the other person said you were doing to them, and now you
Mm,
understand it from the perspective of being, you know, like, you get a taste of your own medicine, really, and I
yeah.
think that's my first thing was, I got a taste of my own medicine, and then after that, I vowed to never learn from the mistake and just to try to understand going forward before I have to make the mistake.
Oh, wow. Thanks for that. One of the things that's different as we talk about physical health, I think you and Jay brought highly about how we've changed our relationships. And I mean, other than my own personal spin on that, you guys both highlighted what pretty much what he said. Like, I didn't know how to be a husband or a boyfriend at that age, and I wasn't mature and I had to learn. One of the things that has changed a lot for me is my physical health and my physical conditioning. When I was 21, I took advantage of, like, you remember when fast food restaurants would have certain theme days, like Monday would be a chicken sandwich for 99¢, Tuesday would be a whatever type, you get this and that. That's what I lived on. Coca-Cola and whatever I could get, or you used to go to Taco Bell and find like the change in your car. You find car change and get like 200 tacos for like 27¢. That's what I lived on. In 2016, I was diagnosed with stage 3 kidney disease, and it has progressed to stage 4. You only have 5 stages before you're on dialysis, you're dead, or you need a transplant. So I'm stage 4, right? And I've been stable stage 4 now about 4 years. But one of the things that's happened is every 3 to 4 months, I go to nephrology and I have to see my numbers. So I can see in real time when I haven't eaten, right? Or when I've not stayed on top of my blood pressure or whatever medications I need to, because I will see a running, I guess, a running chart, right? So physical health, I've definitely taken that serious. When a doctor tells you something can be final or chronic, and you only have 1 or 2 choices, you either make the changes or you don't. A lot of other shit becomes secondary. You like, no, I will have to do this. So I don't consider myself plant based because I eat eggs and I eat honey, and like real vegans don't think you should eat that. But I am very deliberate about the food I eat, what I consume, and how I consume my water intake and so forth. And I think that's one of the things that ties into what we said, living as you grow up and recognizing that you can have 1,001 problems in life till you have health issues, and then you will only have one problem, right? And suddenly, certain shit don't matter anymore. And I remember when I had to have a biopsy and I was getting the right results of my biopsy, I sat in the car and I begged and argued with God that if I could get, like, you can do whatever you're going to do with my life. But at the time, my kids were still, I had, my youngest was like in the first grade. I said, let me at least see my children graduate college and be successful on their own. Or whatever fucking happens, it's gonna have to happen, right? I'm gonna die with my head in my lap, crying, begging for another day. Because as we talked about earlier, 21-year-old me left it all on the table anyway. So I said, okay, I'm going to be deliberate on how I live and what I choose to live. I know I got a little somber, but I think that's valid to hear because there's probably somebody going to watch this and hear this that if you live long enough, you're going to learn that Father Time is undefeated. And if you don't make those changes now, you will be either forced to have a conversation or it will be too late. I would push this to Jay in closing. If you had a time machine and could go back in time and give yourself 3 key tidbits of wisdom, not related to picking the right Powerball numbers or investing in something, what would you tell 21-year-old you, assuming they'd listen? Three
Okay.
things.
So, three things. First thing I would tell my 21-year-old self is you are on schedule, you are on pace, and the decisions that you have made up to this point, although in the short sightedness of it, may not look like they are going to generate what you're hoping as an outcome for your life, but you're right on schedule. The fact that you had the audacity to
Oh,
stand up to your family and to decide that you were not going to allow your upbringing, your circumstances, or anything that you saw when you didn't have control of your life cause you to make life altering decisions that will put you in the grave or put you in prison. The fact that you decided to go left when everybody else went right was exactly what your older me self needed you to do. Secondly, I would tell my 21-year-old self, understand that at some point the world is going to expect you to be about what you say you're about. And so be very, very conscientious of your words because words are spoken in the power, and the things that you say at your mouth can either produce life or it can produce death. Trust that you're on a pathway to becoming this person that you want to become. And even though you don't have a mentor at this point in time, even though you don't have someone that is going to point you in the right direction, just understand that the sum of your childhood experiences is going to prepare you to become the man that you so desperately want to become. And then the third thing I would say to my younger self is understand that in this lifetime, you can have the best of intentions. You can have a lot of bright ideas. You can feel like you have everything figured out in life, but life cannot be measured as a success or as a failure based on where you found yourself at the end of any moment. Where I think that success or failure is going to be found is when you look at your total body of work, being able to do reflective work 2 year, 5 year, 10 year look backs at your life in a real meaningful way is going to help you to determine whether or not you need to make adjustments and changes in your life. Thinking that what's on TV or what other people tell you should or should not do with your life is not going to get you to your destiny. Like you were born to become who you're going to die as. And what you should be doing in the meantime is trying to figure out how to put more of your authentic self forward, how to be of service to other human beings, and how to be able to take in some good constructive criticism. Because if you're not doing any of those three things simultaneously, you're putting yourself in a position to be a follower. And we both know you were not born to be a follower. That's what I would tell myself.
talk that shit.
Well,
Talk
damn.
that. So, Lou, you want to follow that or you want me to follow that? Because I shit, mic drop right there. I got
Three
several
things I
mics for
tell
you.
myself. Three
No,
things I tell myself. I'm not doing.
you can attack that one, but I got this one for you. But you can come back to that one too. It says,
Oh, okay.
what
Go ahead. Sorry.
what would impress 21-year-old you about you today?
That I never did give in to fear, and that I recognize that fear is it's just telling me that there's going to be good change on the other side of that. That changes on the other side of that fear, and that being brave is not the absence of fear. So every single time that I am fearful but still act in that fear, is that's where courage then shows up, and that's where braveness shows up. So I think that she'd be proud of me in that. she'd be proud of the type of mother I am and the type of mother I've become. She'd be proud of the fact that I told myself to never forget what it was like to be a child and never forget that perspective and use that same perspective when leading my children. So I think she'd be proud of me for that too.
God damn. I'm making it hard to follow. So I'm going to say if 2026 was my last year on this planet, what would I want y'all to know about me, say about me, and my legacy to be? When it's all said and done, I hope y'all would know that today's me, I love genuine. I love honest and I love genuine. I would hope that people would be able to see through sometimes I can be uncouth, I can be inappropriate, I can be a downright asshole. But generally speaking, I will backflip over the Grand Canyon for somebody that I love in the name of love. And I will give people 1,000 chances to fuck me over if I see that there's any inkling or any ounce of truth behind their action. Because I'm willing, as a natural empath, I'm willing to say you probably didn't mean it or you were going through something. And lastly, what my legacy to be, I would hope it'd be my kids. I would hope this is how I know I think I did it okay. My kids are better humans at 21 than I ever could have hoped to have been at 21. To me, that's my legacy. If I could leave the world with those things that the 5 children that I raised were able to start their life in a higher position than I started and that they're ultimately better humans than I ever could have hoped to have been. So before we close this out, I'll give any of you guys an opportunity to highlight anything else you feel you want to talk about, either between adult you versus 21-year-old you. And if not, then I'm going to go ahead and drop some closing arguments on this, some closing conversation.
Nah, I wanted to stick with my mic drop.
So we've learned a lot about ourselves. We've learned when to show temperance, living in the moment, and when to apply maturity, recognizing and respecting consequences and the choices, learning from. We also had the audacity to raise, fuck it, what's the worst that will happen? And we never gave in to fear. And we hope we can share that with the rest of you all paying attention, watching that 21-year-old you is supposed to be different than you of today. But do you remember what you said? Don't give in to fear.
And we out.